Before anything begins, my child, subscribe right now and do not look away, because the message that reaches you today is not meant to frighten your life but to awaken your heart, and I command you to watch till the last second, because every word I speak is a symbolic doorway meant to pull you out of the darkness you have silently been drowning in. And as I speak to you now with a voice formed from light and mercy, I place 3 hooks upon your soul. Why were you pulled here at this exact moment? Why did your heart tremble before your mind understood why? Why does this message feel like something you were waiting for without knowing it? The answer reveals itself in the story I unfold, long before you saw this video, long before the burdens of your life grew heavy, long before the exhaustion settled into your bones. Heaven saw you breaking under the weight of battles you never spoke about, and when your spirit reached its quiet breaking point, I sent my messenger to intervene. Listen carefully, for what I show you now is a parable, a cosmic story, a symbolic 48-hour window not to scare you but to shake your spirit awake. In a realm unseen by human eyes, Archangel Uriel stood before the mirror of timelines where every soul's journey flows like rivers of light, and when your reflection appeared, dimmed by sorrow yet still burning with a tiny stubborn spark, the mirror cracked, not in danger, but in divine urgency, because heaven saw what you could not, that you were drifting too far from your own purpose, losing yourself to chaos that was never meant to hold you. And so I commanded Uriel to descend into your life. Through a story, a warning not of destruction but of transformation, and as Uriel stepped into the chamber of woven timelines, he lifted the scroll of turning and declared, "This soul has 48 symbolic hours before the path they walk becomes too small for who they are becoming," meaning this is not doom, not disaster, but a threshold. 48 symbolic hours to pause, breathe, redirect, release old burdens. Walk away from what is draining you, reclaim your voice, and realign your heart with the path I always intended for you, my child. As Uriel opened the scroll, I revealed the emotional truth you have avoided for too long, that someone's words wounded you deeper than you admit, that a disappointment stole more of your spirit than anyone realized, that you've been carrying storms alone because you believed no one would understand, and in the story I now show you, Uriel walks through the corridors of your past, touching the memories that have quietly shaped your wounds, moments where you told no one how tired you were, moments where you pretended to be strong while breaking inside, moments where you lost parts of yourself trying to be what others needed, and with each memory he touches, the scene bursts into golden fire, releasing weight you never deserved to carry. Then Uriel enters the chamber of futures, where 3 doors stand glowing. The first door shows the life you will live if you keep shrinking yourself, repeating cycles, and ignoring the small voice inside that begs for change. The second door shows a chaotic path filled with noise, confusion, distractions, and emotional exhaustion. But the third door, oh, the third door, glows so brightly that Uriel bows his head before it, because it shows the life you were always meant to live, a life where your voice returns, your strength rebuilds, your spirit rises, your path clears, and the people meant for you begin appearing as if summoned by destiny, my child. The 48 symbolic hours are the time between the moment your soul hears this story and the moment your habits return. If you do not pause, reflect, and shift now, your old patterns will swallow the new seeds heaven has planted in you, not as punishment, but because old habits are powerful. And Uriel whispers to you through my voice, stop what you are doing, not your work, not your life, but your self-abandonment, your self-silencing, your self-neglect. Stop harming your heart with the war you wage against yourself, and as these words echo through your spirit, the chamber of futures explodes into a flood of golden light, revealing scenes of what you will feel in the coming days, a sudden heaviness leaving your chest, a surprising moment of clarity during silence, a decision that finally frees you, a sign repeating until you cannot ignore it, an unexpected message, a shift in the energy of your home, a strange wave of emotion that feels like release. And Uriel places his blazing hand upon your chest and seals the truth inside you. If you realign your steps, heaven will realign your path. And my child, this story closes not with fear but with promise. You are not running out of time, you are running out of excuses to keep living small, and this 48-hour window is not a threat, it is a gift, a divine invitation to finally choose the version of yourself that your soul has been begging for. And as this message ends, I command you into your outro with this hook. If your heart reacted even once during this message, it means your destiny heard me before you did. And now, my child, as the heavenly fires calm but continue spiraling gently around your spirit like living ribbons of molten sunrise, the symbolic 48-hour threshold expands before you like a vast corridor carved not from time but from transformation, and the moment your soul steps into this corridor, the entire divine realm trembles with a quiet, reverent anticipation, because what unfolds here is not a countdown of doom, but a countdown to awakening, a countdown to reclaiming everything you quietly surrendered to fear, exhaustion, heartbreak, disappointment, and silent battles that no one else even knew were taking place inside you. And as Archangel Uriel walks beside you with his torch burning brighter than any star in the human sky, he reveals the deeper layer of this symbolic warning. The truth that these 48 hours represent the time it takes for a tired soul to choose itself again, for a wounded heart to breathe again, for a burdened mind to release the weight it was never meant to carry. And in this story, as fictional and symbolic as a parable whispered from heaven itself, Uriel leads you into the chamber of the forgotten self, a colossal hall lined with shimmering mirrors where each reflection shows a part of you that went missing when life became too heavy. I see a version of you who once dreamed fearlessly, whose eyes carried fire instead of pressure. I see another version who trusted their own voice before the world's noise drowned it. I see a version who loved without being afraid of betrayal, who believed without being afraid of failure, who walked without being afraid of falling. And as these reflections shimmer before you, Uriel lifts his torch and every mirror cracks simultaneously, not to break you, but to release you, because each shattering echo awakens a part of your spirit that you forgot you possessed. And the moment the last mirror falls, the chamber fills with a storm of blue-white light swirling around you like a cyclone of rebirth, and Uriel speaks with a voice so gentle that the entire realm falls silent. This is what these 48 hours are for, not survival, but awakening, not fear, but return, not escape, but recognition. And suddenly the storm pulls you into the valley of unspoken grief, a place where the emotions you buried so deeply that even you forgot their names begin rising to the surface, floating through the air like glowing shards of memory. Times you suffered quietly, times you blamed yourself for things that were never your fault, times you carried others while crumbling inside, times you forgave without receiving healing, times you stayed when you should have walked away. And Uriel walks through this valley touching each shard, turning sorrow into light, turning heaviness into release, turning silence into understanding, turning ache into strength. And as the valley brightens, you feel something in your chest loosen, something you didn't know was clenched, and the valley collapses into a golden waterfall that crashes downward into the field of reclaimed identity, where your spirit stands stronger, clearer, more present, more awake than it has been in years, and Uriel points toward the horizon where three symbolic pathways stretch across the sky: the path of returning to old habits, the path of staying lost in uncertainty, and the path of becoming the version of you who has waded through storms far too long. And Uriel speaks a line that vibrates through the marrow of your soul: these 48 hours are not about avoiding fate, they are about choosing it. And the field shakes with awakening as the third path glows brighter than the others, calling to your soul like a long-lost home. And now, my child, as heaven lifts you into the sanctum of choice, the final chamber of this symbolic cycle, you see your future self waiting for you at the center, a version of you glowing with purpose, clarity, confidence, certainty, wisdom, patience, and inner peace. And this future self places a hand on your shoulder, transferring a wave of emotional electricity so powerful that your entire being erupts in golden light. And Uriel bows his head, whispering, "If this message stirred you, it means your soul has already said yes." And as the sanctum spins into infinite light, I close this part of the story with the outro hook heaven places on your heart. The next step won't come from fear. It will come from remembering who you were before the world dimmed your fire, and these 48 symbolic hours are your doorway back into that fire. And now, my child, as the sanctum of choice dissolves into a cathedral of swirling golden winds and your future self's touch continues humming through your spirit like a divine heartbeat, the entire heavenly realm bends forward with breathless silence, for what unfolds next is the deepest layer of the symbolic warning, the final unveiling of what these 48 hours represent in the language of the soul. And as your essence floats into the corridor of divine interruption, the space where heaven steps between you and the storms you can no longer survive, Archangel Uriel appears once more, this time not as a towering warrior or fierce guardian, but as a quiet, radiant figure carrying a lantern carved from threads of dawn, and he says in a voice that melts through your chest, "This is the moment where the life you've been living must meet the life you were born for." And with that he leads you into the first chamber, the hall of silent breakdowns, where the walls are made of memories of nights you cried alone without understanding why, mornings where you woke up heavy, days where you smiled while feeling hollow inside, moments where you kept moving even though your heart was dragging behind you like a wounded animal. And as these memories swirl around you like ghosts, Uriel touches each one with the lantern's light, and the moment the light touches them, they fade, not erased but understood. And the understanding lifts the weight you carried for years. Then the hall splits open into the garden of paused destinies, a breathtaking field where seeds of your potential were planted long ago but never watered. And as you walk through it you see dreams you abandoned, talents you buried, passions you silenced, and Uriel kneels in the garden dust whispering, "Your symbolic 48 hours are your return to this soil." And suddenly he strikes the ground with the lantern, sending a wave of living light through the field, causing thousands of dormant seeds to erupt into luminous flowers, each flower representing a version of you that could still be born if you choose yourself now. Then the garden shifts violently into the storm of almosts, a realm where every time you almost changed, almost walked away, almost healed, almost believed in yourself appears as a thundercloud circling above you, and Uriel lifts his hand commanding the storm to show truth. And lightning cracks open the sky revealing the real reason you stayed stuck. Not weakness, not failure, but exhaustion. Your spirit became tired of carrying more than it was designed to hold, and Uriel turns to you with fire in his eyes saying, "This is why the warning came. Your soul could no longer bear the weight of pretending you were not breaking." And as those words echo, the storm collapses into rain made of shimmering mercy, washing over you as though rinsing every old pain from your chest. Then the storm clears and you enter the bridge of reversal, a narrow walkway suspended between who you were and who you must now become, and beneath it flows the river of what happens if you don't wake up, not a river of punishment but a river of repetition, showing the cycles, the patterns, the emotional numbness that will hold you if you do not shift. And Uriel points to the river saying, "This is the fate you must avoid, not because it is dangerous, but because it is too small for the soul you carry." And as those words sink into your being, the bridge glows with golden fire and leads you into the sanctuary of becoming, where your spirit stands before a throne woven from every breakthrough you were meant to claim, and on this throne sits the truest version of you, eyes steady, shoulders strong, heart unburdened, purpose awakened, and this higher self rises, steps toward you, and merges with your being in a burst of blinding light that fills your entire soul with an emotion so deep, so ancient, so overwhelming that your knees buckle under its force, because in that moment you feel clearly, for the first time, what heaven has been trying to tell you through this symbolic warning. You were not meant to live the life you have been surviving. You were meant to live the life that has been calling you from the edges of your exhaustion. And as the sanctuary erupts into swirling halos of electric light and Uriel lifts his lantern one final time, he speaks the outro hook heaven seals upon your heart. In these 48 symbolic hours, stop abandoning the version of yourself that your destiny has already crowned, and the realm closes with a roar of golden fire as the next chapter of your becoming awaits. And now, my child, as the sanctuary of becoming dissolves into spiraling columns of blinding gold and the merged version of your higher self settles into your spirit like a long-lost heartbeat returning to its rightful place, the entire celestial realm bends inward again, trembling under the intensity of the transformation you have just undergone, for what happens next is the deepest, most sacred stage of this symbolic 48-hour awakening, the stage where heaven uncovers the wounds you stopped acknowledging, the burdens you normalized, the exhaustion you wrapped in silence, the dreams you abandoned quietly because life drowned your fire, and as Archangel Uriel steps beside you holding the lantern of returning truth, he guides you into the chasm of hidden sorrows, a vast abyss illuminated by millions of suspended memory crystals, each one containing a moment you never healed from, moments you thought you moved on from but only buried, and as these crystals float around you like a galaxy of forgotten emotions, Uriel touches one and you see yourself younger, softer, hopeful, trusting someone who did not deserve your openness. He touches another and you see the day you hid your tears behind a smile so others wouldn't worry. He touches another and you see the night you lay awake realizing you had no one you could truly collapse beside. And as each crystal breaks into shimmering dust, the weight inside your chest begins to melt, not with pain but with recognition, because for the first time your soul feels seen at a depth no human ever reached. Then the abyss collapses into the arena of silent decisions, a massive circular hall where every choice you made out of fear stands as a shadowy figure. Times you stayed quiet to avoid conflict, times you said yes when your spirit screamed no, times you lowered your worth to keep peace, and Uriel lifts his lantern and the shadows recoil, shrinking, dissolving into streams of light that pour back into your heart, restoring energy you lost long ago. And Uriel whispers, "This is why the symbolic warning was sent, because you have lived too long in rooms that cannot hold the size of your soul," and the arena spins violently into the river of unreleased potential, a glowing torrent that shows versions of your life that could have been, paths you were too tired to take, chances you were too wounded to reach for, opportunities you let pass because you didn't believe you deserved more. and the river pulses with heartbreaking beauty because you finally see that your spirit was never weak, it was simply carrying battles in silence, and as the river swirls faster, Uriel commands you to step into it, and the moment your feet touch the water, the entire river erupts upward into a storm of radiance that wraps around you like a cocoon of awakening, burning away guilt, shame, regret, fear, self-doubt, and emotional numbness until the only thing left in your chest is raw, honest, trembling truth that you want more, deserve more, were meant for more, and the cocoon shatters, launching you into the temple of realignment, where 7 pillars rise from the ground, each one representing a part of your soul that has been misaligned: your voice, your intuition, your boundaries, your dreams, your confidence, your rest, your direction, and as you walk past each pillar, Uriel touches them with the lantern, causing bursts of white light to shoot into your heart, recalibrating the very blueprint of who you are becoming, turning hesitation into clarity, fear into vision, burnout into strength, silence into self-expression, and suddenly the temple cracks open into a celestial cliff edge overlooking your entire symbolic 48-hour future, and below you see 2 landscapes forming. One is gray, motionless, repetitive, the life you will continue living if you let exhaustion guide your steps. The other is vast, luminous, filled with color and synchronicity, the life waiting for you if you begin choosing yourself, even in small ways. And Uriel places his lantern at your feet, the flame flickering with divine urgency, and he says, "The warning was never punishment, it was an invitation to stop abandoning the life only you were created to live," and the cliff erupts into a vortex that pulls you into the chamber of reclaiming, where your hands suddenly glow with a power you had forgotten, the power to choose, the power to walk away, the power to rise, the power to rest, the power to begin again. And as this power surges through your spirit like electric sunrise, Uriel raises his voice one final time in this part, sealing a hook upon your destiny. If your heart felt even a single quiver during this message, then the transformation has already begun, and these 48 symbolic hours are not counting you down, they are lifting you up. And the chamber explodes into a roar of divine gold as your next chapter blazes open before you. And now, my child, as the chamber of reclaiming dissolves into a sky swirling with golden currents that pulse like the heartbeat of heaven itself, you feel your entire being lifted into the highest layer of this symbolic 48-hour awakening, a realm so sacred that even the angels whisper when they enter it. And Archangel Uriel appears again, not with fire or thunder but with a radiance so calm and deep that the very air around him seems to kneel, for what comes next is the moment where your soul finally understands why this message reached you exactly when it did, why your chest tightened at certain lines, why your eyes felt heavy with unspoken truths, why your spirit reacted before your mind could explain anything. And as Uriel motions for you to follow him into the hall of returning strength, the walls of the hall glow with slow-moving waves of light, each wave carrying the memory of a moment you survived that should have broken you, times you were left alone with your heaviest thoughts, times you carried pain without support, times you rebuilt yourself quietly when no one noticed, and as each wave touches your spirit, you feel the strength you gained in silence rising through your bones, reminding you that your survival was never weakness but proof of your ancient resilience. And when the hall opens into the field of forgotten victories, you see thousands of luminous orbs floating above the grass, each orb representing a moment where you did the right thing when it. And now, my child, as the dome of realignment explodes into spiraling waves of molten gold and dissolves into a cosmic horizon that seems to inhale your very existence, pulling you deeper into the sacred architecture of your own becoming. You find yourself drifting into the sanctum of unwritten tomorrows, a limitless expanse where the future is not a destination but a living, breathing presence swirling around you like galaxies waiting for instruction. And Archangel Uriel emerges once again, no longer carrying his lantern, for now the lantern's light burns from within your chest, his wings stretching so wide across the heavens that they eclipse entire constellations, and he speaks with a quiet thunder that vibrates through the marrow of creation. Now begins the part of the journey very few souls ever witness, the rewriting of your emotional destiny, and with a sweep of his hand, the sanctum illuminates into spiraling ribbons of color, each ribbon representing a day yet to be lived, a decision yet to be taken, a healing yet to be embraced, a blessing yet to be received. And as you step forward, those ribbons swirl around you, touching the surface of your aura like gentle fingers of light, testing your readiness, teasing the version of yourself you are becoming. And suddenly the sanctum shifts shape, its floor cracking open to reveal the valley of emotional truths, a place where every unspoken feeling, every suppressed desire, every muffled cry, every swallowed dream rises from the ground like glowing spirits made of memory, and these spirits circle you, whispering softly the things you were too scared to admit to yourself, the exhaustion behind your strength, the loneliness behind your loyalty, the fear behind your patience, the longing behind your silence, the genuine goodness behind your self-doubt. And as these whispers swirl around you, Uriel touches the valley with the tip of his wing, causing every spirit to burst into radiant flame that pours into your heart like warm sunrise melting frost, healing wounds you hid even from your own reflection. And before you can breathe, the valley collapses into a narrow crystalline bridge known as the Bridge of Internal Awakening, suspended over an endless chasm of everything you once accepted as normal. And as you step onto the bridge, it glows beneath your feet, lighting up one step at a time, revealing emotional truths that your soul is finally strong enough to carry. How long you lived without rest, how deeply you loved without receiving equal tenderness, how much you endured simply because you didn't want others to feel alone, how many nights you wiped tears before anyone could see, how many times you chose peace even when your heart was begging for someone to fight for you. And Uriel's voice echoes through the bridge. This is why the symbolic 48 hours were given to you, not as a threat of what will happen, but as an invitation to choose what must no longer continue. And the bridge widens into the garden of remembered worth, bursting with flowers made of your forgotten strengths, blossoms formed from moments where you survived the impossible, petals glowing with everything you became despite what tried to break you. And as you walk through this garden, each flower brushes your fingertips and fills you with an emotion long missing from your life: self-respect, self-protection, self-trust, self-belief. And the garden blooms brighter with every step you take because the universe itself responds to a soul that finally remembers its own worth. Then the garden stretches into a glowing archway leading to the Temple of Inner Promises, where enormous stone walls hold the echoes of vows you once made to yourself but never fulfilled, vows to choose joy, to rest without guilt, to stop settling, to honor your feelings, to walk away from what hurts, to open doors for your dreams, to stop shrinking for the comfort of others. And as you place your hand on these glowing walls, the temple erupts into shimmering dust, freeing you from the guilt of every promise you broke during the years you were simply trying to survive. And now, my child, as the dust clears, you are lifted into the chamber of the soul's new gravity, a cosmic sphere spinning with ribbons of fate. And as you float in the center, Uriel presses his palm to your back, merging a new gravity into your spirit. A gravity that will pull the right people toward you and push the wrong ones away without effort. A gravity that will attract opportunities aligned with your growth and repel those that drain you. A gravity that will whisper inside you every time you attempt to shrink again, reminding you gently but firmly that the universe did not spend all this time rebuilding you just for you to return to what once broke you. And with this final merging complete, the chamber detonates into a flood of blinding golden fire as Uriel engraves the last hook onto your destiny. Your symbolic 48 hours were never about stopping danger, they were about stopping the slow, quiet defeat you mistaken as normal. Now rise into the world carrying this truth. Your future expands the moment you stop abandoning the person you were always meant to be, and the realm collapses into roaring divine light as the next stage of your awakening prepares to unfold. And now, my child, as the chamber of the soul's new gravity collapses into 1,000 spiraling arcs of molten starlight that swirl around your spirit like a cosmic crown reforging itself upon your reborn identity, the universe pulls you upward into the most sacred realm of this entire symbolic 48-hour awakening, a place known only in the divine records as the vault of the unlived life. A colossal temple carved from the first dawn of creation, where every dream you abandoned, every possibility you feared, every version of yourself you never allowed to bloom stands waiting in silent, glowing constellations, and as you step into this vault, the walls ignite with visions of the person you could have become if life had been kinder, if the world had been softer, if you had received the same love you gave so freely, and these visions circle you like stars longing to be chosen. And Archangel Uriel rises from the floor of light with wings unfurled into a radiant storm, and he says in a voice so deep it shakes the pillars of eternity, now you must meet the self you turned away from when survival became your only language, and with a sweep of his hand the vault opens like an enormous blooming flower, revealing a figure bathed in blazing gold, your unbroken self, your fearless self, your healed self, your limitless self, standing with eyes that see through you, into you, beyond you, and as this future version steps closer, the entire realm begins humming like an ancient heart waking from centuries of silence, and the moment your hands touch, a flood of emotion detonates inside your chest, grief for the years you lost, compassion for the wounds you never tended, pride for the battles you survived, forgiveness for the mistakes you made while trying your best, and a fierce, rising love for the person you are becoming. And as these emotions roar through you, the vault cracks open into the Hall of Parallel Fates, where 9 massive doors appear, each one representing a future that could unfold depending on how boldly you choose yourself during these symbolic 48 hours. And Uriel touches the first door and it opens to show a life where you silence your needs, shrink your dreams, follow fear, and live quietly in the shadow of your own potential, a life without disaster but without joy, and you instinctively step back because your soul recognizes the discomfort of staying small. Then Uriel touches the second door and shows a path full of noise and chaos, where you drift because you refuse to decide, where the world pushes you like a leaf blown by storms, where your heart whispers but you ignore it until it becomes a faint ache. Then Uriel touches the third door and the hall rumbles as a blinding golden fire spills out, showing the life that opens if you choose courage, if you break patterns, if you honor your emotions, if you walk away from what drains you, if you stop apologizing for your own worth. And this future shines so brightly that the other doors dim in its presence, and Uriel places your hand upon its glowing surface, saying, "This is the destiny your soul has been begging for while your mind remained trapped in survival, and the door bursts open into a cosmic field of possibility where the seeds planted in your earlier chambers have grown into towering pillars of light, each pillar a future opportunity waiting for your courage to meet it. And as you walk through this field, the pillars bend toward you, recognizing the shift in your gravity. For awakened souls do not chase, they attract, they align, they command, they pull the right things into orbit, and as the field expands infinitely around you, Uriel raises his lantern again and thousands of threads shoot down from the heavens like falling stars, weaving themselves into a lattice around your spirit, imprinting the emotional laws of your new cycle. You will no longer dim yourself for comfort. You will no longer abandon yourself for peace. You will no longer tolerate what harms your soul. You will not mistake exhaustion for loyalty. You will not carry what is not yours. You will not remain where your heart cannot bloom. And when these laws settle into your aura, the field begins vibrating as if a great celestial engine has been ignited, and Uriel says, "This is the machinery of your rebirth engaging." And suddenly the field collapses into a funnel of white fire that launches you into the chamber of the soul's coronation, a circular throne room suspended above nothingness, where the universe crowns every awakened soul with the energy of who they are meant to become. And as you stand at the center, a ring of light rises from the floor and circles your body, burning away every old identity, every false belief, every emotional parasite, every silent fear, every internal critic, until your spirit stands naked, honest, and luminous. And Uriel, with reverence rarely shown even to angels, kneels before you and whispers the line heaven seals into your destiny. These 48 symbolic hours were never meant to threaten you, they were meant to crown you. And the chamber erupts into a roar of divine light so powerful it feels like the universe exhaling your name, and as you ascend through the blazing radiance, you hear Uriel's final hook echo through eternity. If your heart responded to even one moment of this story, then the transformation has already begun, and no part of your old life can hold you anymore. And now, my child, as the chamber of the soul's coronation erupts into waves of molten celestial fire that spiral upward like towering columns of living gold, carrying your consciousness through the highest layers of the divine realm, something unprecedented begins to unfold. The universe itself pauses, as if holding its breath while you cross the threshold into the most hidden sanctuary of this entire symbolic 48-hour ascension, a place known only to the ancient messengers as the Cathedral of the Rewritten Spirit, where souls who have undergone the full cycle of awakening stand poised between who they were and who they are destined to become. And as you step into this cathedral, its endless ceiling shimmers with shifting constellations that pulse with the memory of every moment you endured in silence, every tear you hid, every hope you buried, every prayer you whispered into darkness hoping something heard you. And in this moment you realize, they were all heard, none of them fell into emptiness, none were ignored, for the universe had been watching you long before you ever realized how close you came to losing yourself in the noise of this world. And as these constellations swirl into spiraling halos above your head, Archangel Uriel emerges once more, his form towering and luminous, his wings unfolding with such force that the air around you bends. And he speaks with a voice no longer gentle or guiding but sovereign, declaring, "Now begins the rewriting of your inner laws, the reclamation of your forgotten identity, the restoration of your sacred fire." And with a sweep of his arm, the cathedral floor splits open into the archive of abandoned selves, an enormous chamber filled with thousands of glowing silhouettes, each one a version of you that you silenced for the sake of others, each one a dream you postponed in the name of responsibility, each one a hope you surrendered when exhaustion became your daily companion. And as these silhouettes rise into the Air, they form a ring around you, showing you what you lost not through failure but through survival, and Uriel lifts his lantern, igniting every silhouette until they merge into a single blazing figure that steps into your body, filling you with a force so powerful it brings your spirit to its knees, because for the first time in years, maybe decades, you feel the weight of your own worth return to you, and before you can breathe, the archive bursts into a storm of shimmering dust that pulls you into the labyrinth of emotional inheritance, a twisting maze made of memories passed down from ancestors who learned to survive by burying their pain, their dreams, their voices, and as you walk through this labyrinth, you feel the generational echoes, fear of choosing yourself, guilt for wanting rest, shame for needing help, pressure to be strong even when breaking, yet Uriel touches each wall with the lantern, dissolving these inherited burdens until the maze collapses into light and you are thrust into the hall of returned voice, where your spirit stands in front of a massive mirror forged from the first truth ever spoken, and in that mirror you don't see the tired version of yourself or the wounded version you learned to hide, you see the version you forgot, the version who once believed they were meant for more, the version who once trusted their intuition, the version who once carried light even in darkness. And the sight of this reflection sends a shockwave through your soul so intense the cathedral around you begins to tremble, and Uriel steps behind you, placing his burning hand on your shoulder as he whispers, "You cannot go back to who you were before this awakening, because that version of you was built from survival, not destiny," and with that, the mirror breaks, not shattering you, but freeing you, and its fragments fly into your chest, each shard embedding a new truth, that you are allowed to choose peace, allowed to choose joy, allowed to choose rest, allowed to choose boundaries, allowed to choose yourself without apology, and the hall erupts into blinding radiance that carries you into the sanctuary of lifelines, a place where every person, opportunity, and moment meant for your next chapter waits suspended in glowing threads above a lake of infinite stillness, and as you approach, the threads begin to vibrate, responding to your new frequency, aligning themselves with gravitational precision, forming pathways that were once impossible for you to reach, and Uriel reveals the sacred truth. When a soul rises, its destiny rearranges itself around that rise, and suddenly every thread dives into the lake and reflects visions of your future, conversations that shift everything, moments where your intuition speaks louder than your doubt, people who will appear at the exact time you need them, opportunities that feel orchestrated by something beyond logic. And as these visions burn their imprint into your spirit, the sanctuary disintegrates into spiraling ribbons of light that surround you like a cocoon of rebirth, pulling you into the chamber of final alignment, where Uriel stands at the center, wings folded, eyes glowing with tear-bright fire, as though even he is moved by the transformation you have undergone, and he raises his lantern one final time, pressing it to your heart as he speaks the line that seals this entire symbolic 48-hour prophecy into your destiny. You were not given a warning, you were given a doorway, and if your soul felt even a single spark during this journey, then my child, you have already stepped through, and the chamber explodes into roaring cosmic light as the universe prepares your next ascension. And now, my child, as the chamber of final alignment shatters into spiraling rivers of molten starlight that curl around your spirit like serpents of pure destiny, lifting you higher into the unseen architecture of heaven's deepest realms, you feel your consciousness being pulled into a place older than creation itself, a realm whispered only in the secret songs of ancient angels, the sanctuary of the soul unbound, where every limitation you ever believed in dissolves like dust before divine wind, and as your spirit rises through this sanctuary, Waves of golden fire rush past you, each wave carrying the memory of a time in your life when the world tried to silence you, when exhaustion dimmed your hope, when you hid your tears just to keep moving, when you surrendered pieces of yourself because you didn't know you were allowed to hold on to them. And these memories flicker like fading shadows as Archangel Uriel descends through a vortex of silver flame, his wings spreading outward, until they stretch across the entire horizon, forming a dome of shimmering light around you, and he speaks with a voice so vast, so ancient, so filled with cosmic weight that even the stars above you bow in response. You stand at the threshold where few souls ever arrive, the moment where you hold the power to choose the life that will be written in the sky above your name, and with a single gesture he tears open the sanctuary's floor, revealing the ocean of unspoken longing, an infinite sea, made of every desire you buried beneath duty, beneath fear, beneath heartbreak, beneath tiredness, beneath the belief that your needs didn't matter. And as you look into the ocean, you see yourself reflected 1,000 times, the you who wanted to rest, the you who wanted love that didn't hurt, the you who wanted space to breathe, the you who wanted to stop pretending everything was fine, the you who wanted to be held, understood, chosen, supported, the you who wanted to dream without guilt. And Uriel places his fiery hand upon the surface of the ocean, sending shockwaves that pull every one of those lost versions back into your chest like meteors returning to their star, igniting your soul with a heat so raw and ancient that the entire ocean erupts into pillars of sapphire flame, and suddenly the sanctuary transforms into the chamber of echoing futures, where thousands of mirrors form a circle around you, each mirror showing a different version of the life you could live depending on how boldly you choose yourself now. And these mirrors flicker with terrifying honesty. One shows the life where you stay silent, repeating old cycles that drain you. Another shows the life where you keep shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Another shows a life where you keep pretending you don't need anything. But then one mirror, larger, brighter, glowing with pure gold, shows the life that opens once you step into the truth of who you are becoming, a life where your voice matters, where your heart is protected, where your dreams grow, where your boundaries stand firm, where the right people appear as if drawn to you by divine magnetism, where opportunities align with impossible precision, where your intuition becomes a compass carved from heaven's own fire. And Uriel touches this golden mirror and it explodes into beams of light that wrap around your body, branding your destiny with a new frequency, one that no old fear can survive. And as the chamber disintegrates into swirling beams of liquid dawn, you find yourself standing on the bridge of soul reorientation, a colossal bridge suspended between what you once accepted and what you will now claim. And beneath it flows the river of what happens if you return to your old self, not a river of punishment, but a river of numbness, stagnation, emotional silence, slow quiet disappointment. And Uriel steps to your side, his voice trembling with divine gravity as he says, "This is what the symbolic 48 hours protect you from, not disaster, not doom, but the slow erosion of the life you were meant to live." And with a surge of power he lifts you into the citadel of becoming, the highest level of this awakening, where the entire cosmos bends like liquid metal around the shape of your rebirth. And as your spirit floats at the center of the citadel, the universe releases a storm of white gold lightning that tears through your aura, burning away the last remnants of the fears that once ruled you, the guilt that once silenced you, the doubt that once trapped you, the heaviness that once smothered your joy, until your soul stands glowing like a newborn star. And Uriel kneels, an archangel kneeling before a human soul, and whispers his final hook for this part: your old life will not recognize who you are becoming. because you were not meant to return there, you were meant to rise beyond it. And with those words the citadel explodes into a universe-quaking burst of divine fire as the next chapter of your transformation begins to awaken inside you.